welcome to Sports Talk. And tonight, Dwayne and myself, man, we've been away for a while on the channel. We haven't really been doing much content on the channel, but one thing that we're going to try to do going forward is try to revive what we've been doing actually for I'm gonna honestly say for the last 6 years, where we as sports fans and friends since the sixth grade we'll have a casual conversation that leads actually to a phone call, which may be an hour, 2 hours. We watch football games together. We both like the Cowboys, so it's always an interesting thing. We got draft season upon us. Most of the bulk of free agency in the NFL has already went by, but it's not over. So you still will see some signings definitely after the June 1st cuts, definitely after the draft. Player teams will get some of the needs that they're trying to get, and may have told these, as they say, these grizzly veterans who don't like to go to these off-season workouts and sign just for training camp. They're going to be signed. Don't worry. We know it's a long list. Still some really, really talented players out there, and uh, both of our baseball teams have a lot of expectation this year. Both our basketball teams are both doing well going into playoffs, but we've kind of soured on the NBA game. But we're gonna try to just give content, give our thoughts, be expecting some shorts, some videos, and just some content of what we're gonna be doing. Sometimes we'll be doing a lot of shows together. Sometimes it may just be a video of myself or a video of Dwayne. But today we're gonna talk about Dwayne has sent a top 50, not a top 50, and I let me preface it. Dwayne sent basically 50 players to look out for in the draft, notable names, uh, and some guys he had starred actually what to watch out for. They say that this draft is not a deep draft when it comes to marquee players. All I say is that when you come 2, 3 drafts away on the heels of what we went through with COVID, you had a lot of guys that had a lot of eligibility. So some guys fanned out a little late. They played a lot of college ball. With the transfer portal jumping the way it's jumping now, so you see guys go from one school to another. And in my opinion, the tape don't lie. What you see every Saturday, and I'll just say Saturday because that's usually the big day in college football. What you see on Saturday is what you see on Saturday. And a lot of times we try to look at guys and not realize that, as the great Chris Carter once said, the NFL is the biggest league that relies on talent matched with system. Because you could have a guy that looks so talented, and if he goes to the wrong system, he might not fan out. And then it could be the opposite way, where a guy was just in college, you didn't see it, a scout didn't see it, and then he goes to the league and just could be injury while he went from one position to another with the player that plays for the football team we root for, Michael Parsons. Nobody saw this as a pass rusher. We knew that he had some pass rusher skills, but nobody saw this where the metrics basically says that he's been the best pass rusher efficiency since he's been at N. His days of playing linebacker, like Dwayne explained to me again earlier, is basically over. So with that, we're just gonna talk college football, man. And I'm gonna just throw it out there from the door before I even get a chance to introduce our friend, our brother, our co-host. Uh, the most intriguing prospect this year is probably the one where nobody knows what position he's going to play, because, as we say, he's just a football player and he excels well in both. Travis Hunter, Dwayne.
Yeah, man. Travis Hunter is probably the best athlete in this draft. That goes without saying. He can play wide receiver. He can play corner. But he's an athlete. I think initially you put him at wide receiver, and then you play him a little in the nickel on defense. I do not believe in NFL he can handle as many snaps as he did in college. Good college career, Jackson State, Colorado. So much so that Colorado is retiring his jersey on Saturday, Shador Sanders jersey on Saturday. Um, I'm gonna be honest with everyone. You know, being a college football fan since I was 8 years old, I don't know how I feel about Colorado retiring those two jerseys. They ain't winning any championships there. You know what I mean? I think this culture has become such in the moment people that yeah, they made a lot of buzz and they won more games this year than they did last year. But as far as retiring their jerseys, I just say I can't agree with that. I don't
I
think they
mean,
did enough
if
at
you're gonna
Colorado.
retire if you're gonna retire those two jerseys, they're gonna build a monument like Rome for Dion then, huh?
Yeah, it must be, man. But you know, there was Colorado Buffaloes football prior to Coach Prime getting there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was down for a lot of years. He turned it around, but you know, back in the '90s, there were some players on that team, and I would think some of them did some big things at Colorado, which would have allowed for their jerseys to be retired. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that's a
Imagine how
story for another
those
day.
imagine how
Um,
those former players feel, right?
yeah, like I love this time. I love draft time. When I was a kid, my favorite thing was to get the Dr. Z draft guide on Sports Illustrated. And it really got me in tune with the draft. Like my family members will laugh at me. They can remember me a little kid when the draft was all day on Saturday, starting at 12. I have my notebook and I would chart every player and Sunday too. And I just watched the draft. I even watch it now that you know TV has taken over and made it a 3 day extravaganza. One thing about me that I will say, man, when I put these lists together, I'm not the guy to get to all 22 and go back after the season's over and handpick game, what this one and that one did. I love the game of football. I'm a former youth football coach, help out on the high school level at times. Um, Football season is my season. So when I don't have anything to do as far as life is concerned, I'm watching college football from
Yeah.
noon to midnight. So I went to a draft creator. I won't say who their name is. I won't do that. And I said to him, I watch games. I don't watch film cut ups because you could take a cut up of a player's game and put whatever narrative you want on it. You can find a running back and he has 5 bad runs in the game. If you want to knock that running back, all you're going to do is show his 5 bad runs. So it's all opinion based. That's all it is. Experts, I mean, everybody's an expert. Like Quinn's an expert. I'm an expert. Anybody that loves football can be quote unquote an expert. Whether you're on the letter networks, whether you're a YouTube content creator, it's all opinion. One of the pet peeves that I can't stand about the draft process is the day after the draft, we're grading drafts like we know what players are going to be. And we just don't know what players are going to be. I get it. It's a fun thing to do. Oh, this team got an A. This team got a B. Oh, let's grade their free agency. But I would ask the question, I would pose the question to anyone. When you look at free agency, since it came into vogue, I would say 93, somewhere around there, where free agency really blew up after those Cowboys, you know, 2 championships, and then people started taking players. Look at the contract Jimmy Jones got from the Rams off what he did with the Cowboys, you know, and he was never the same,
He was a
right?
rotational player.
So my thing is, every year we hear about this person did that in free agency. And the only one I could say in recent times that really knocked it out the park with a player was Saquon last year.
Yeah.
Saquon. But if you
And
look at free agency, man, we make a big deal. Free agency frenzy. Oh, this team ain't doing nothing. That team is doing this. How many of those free agents are truly hitting?
yeah. And when you look at the Eagles, and most people don't realize, and me and you always talk about sports, and what we say is They hit on the linebacker too, but they basically had signed him, and he was in the Vic Fangio defense, and he was basically a special team of brawn. But they totally struck out on Huff. And a lot of people, even you said it when they signed him, you said, I don't know why they gave Huff all that money and
Well,
didn't
they
want to just.
traded for him,
Yeah.
right? They traded Riddick to the Jets, and they got him. And I believe they may have signed him to an extension, but
Yeah.
you just never know, man. Free agency trades, even the draft, man, right? Everybody's going to tell you this player's too high, this player's too low. And then we always see that fourth or that fifth rounder who shocks everybody. And then it's like, oh, 31 teams whiffed on him. No. Just got to let these things play out. I get it. I know it's content. I love it. I watch everything. I watch all the Cowboys content creators because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. But, man, we're going to see. Of these guys, they do a really good job, man. They break down to all 22. They do this. They do that. Me personally, I watch football games, right?
And then it's a premier fifth-round pick, like you said, when the guy gets picked up and he goes to Kansas City or he goes to the Steelers, they'll say, "Oh, the Ravens whiffed on him." They'll use it as like a talking point during a division rival game, and you'd be like, "No, this guy." And then they'll even talk about it sometimes, Dwayne. A lot of times, and because this is the season, nobody knows, quote unquote, the off the field issues that a lot of these players have, and sometimes it get overblown, sometimes it don't when it comes to the red flags. And we know with some players, unfortunately, some teams will just take you straight off their draft board off of allegations, which is, and I'm not going to say no players because at the end of the day, we supposed to say we live in a country where, as they say, innocent until proven guilty. And I think that these young men, and I always want to give grace, man. These young men have the world right in front of them. And on that particular Thursday, that particular Friday, that Saturday, their whole reality changes. And I'm a firm believer is give a person a clean slate, give them a second chance, because you never know, man. A lot of these young men have made young men decisions, and now we're asking them to be full grown adults based upon their physical talent and how much money they make. And I think that we put a burden on them sometimes to just not have no grace and not have no ease and allow them to work. But because you I brought up Travis to you, and when we opened, I'm really really shocked at the Shador thing. I mean, I've seen some guys say Shador may not even get drafted in the first round, and it's just like Shador has proven with a bad line in Colorado that he's a gamer. I'm gonna say he's a gamer. He does a lot of things well. I think Shador can play, and I think that they're measuring Shador, and then they're changing the goalposts when they're measuring other quarterbacks.
Listen, it's funny you say that, and it cues up a thought, right? So, like I said, I was a youth football coach. And, when you first get the kids together and you do conditioning, you got to do a certain amount of hours before you could put equipment on players, right? So they're warming up. They're doing these first week or so of practice in T-shirt and shorts, right? And we'll sit there and we'll evaluate the kids that potentially will make up our team. And we'll be like, man, that kid looks good over there, man. Like, he's fast. We do a little 40 time for him just to do it because they see it on TV and stuff. Man, he got good hands, man. He's doing all this. And you put them pads on. If they start click-clacking and that kid that looked wonderful. Now, I say that, right? And I hate to pick on this player, but I listened to all these experts, and I know what my eyes showed me on Saturday, right? So you got Zach Wilson. Oh, boy, his pro day. He got t-shirt, shorts on. Oh, he's making throws that nobody can make.
Dwayne, it was.
Oh, let me just finish the thought real quick. He making these throws that nobody could make. Look at all the off-schedule throws. Look at his arm. Look how they had him roll to the left, and he threw all the way across his body to the right. And he just went up and up the draft boards. And I remember saying on this platform, this kid is not going to get it done. I watched him live. Fast forward to 2025. Now we got the dark kid. Oh, he makes throws that pros make. His arm strength is better than Shedeur Sanders. He's moving up draft boards. He's going to be great. He's going to be. Put the film on. When he was at Ole Miss and the other school he was at, but let's just talk about Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. He looked good against Furman. He looked good against some of those other non-conference games too. But when he stepped in that SEC, so you better think about that with Jackson Dart. I see everybody got him going up there. The experts say he could make all the throws. I beg the world not to fall in love with Will Levis. Oh, he is great. He could make all the throws. He couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. And then he went to Kentucky, and he looked real good at Kentucky. Everybody fell in love. Will Levis, strong arm. He could do this. He could do that. Watch games. Don't watch cut-ups. Watch games. Watch games.
And now Will Levis is more known for his quirky stuff with the mayonnaise than everything else.
Right. And now what does Tennessee got to do with their first pick in the draft? They got to draft Cameron Ward.
And it's funny because I remember the Zach Wilson, that one throw in Indianapolis. And you were like, yo, all these quarterbacks that are right-handed when they rolling out left and they throw across their body could do that against air. Nobody's rushing them. Most of the time, to be receivers that different. You were so upset that one throw was being pushed on the letter networks as the greatest throw that any player had ever made for Zach Wilson. And I'll never forget you said it. You were like, listen, mark my words. He's not going to fan out. And he didn't fan out. And, I believe it was more him than the team he got drafted with. It was just a bad combination. And then he went with, as we would say, a coach that is a quarterback whisperer, and he didn't even re-sign him after signing him last year. So you're absolutely right. You sent me a player, and we just kicking it and talking because I'm thinking as we go along. But you sent me a player earlier. Speaking of Ole Miss, you sent me a linebacker, Dwayne, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I was not expecting that when you sent me Chris Paul Jr. And what I mean is, usually when you send me a linebacker like the kid from UCLA, you told me to watch out for. Usually I say, okay, let me see his tackling ability, and then I'll wait and be like, okay, he's good in coverage. What I saw with Chris Paul was and I'm not comparing them, it reminded me of Verse. I saw that pass rushing ability. He was screaming. He's not as big, but he was screaming.
I don't know that he's Verse. I don't think you could put Chris Paul Jr.'s hand in the dirt. I just think you want to keep him in a perfect system as a weak side linebacker. Okay, he's a guy that could drop in the coverage. He comes off if you send him on a blitz, off that edge, he comes off that speed and violence. He comes off like a demon. Now, listen, he's going to be 4th rounder, maybe 5th. A team may reach late 3rd.
Elmas Dumerville? You see Elmas Dumerville?
Well, see, I don't like. I
know you hate comparing. I'm sorry, Wayne.
No, it's fine because this is insight into how me and you talk. I don't like doing comps.
Yeah, I know.
I don't. And again, I know that's the buzz thing that they do on TV, and he's this, he's that. No, he's Chris Paul Jr. I mean, that's who he is. That's who he is. And the reason I sent them to you because we're Cowboy fans first. We don't deny that. I think in Fluce's defense, he could be that weak side linebacker. Man, listen, there's a lot of people that love Maris Louisville for the Cowboys. A lot of people love him. A lot of the Cowboy draft guys. Maris Louisville. And what I told my brother Q is Maris Louisville does play with his hair on fire. He's going to always get there, but you don't know if he's going to complete the tackle.
Yeah. You're going to always see him on tape.
He's going to fly all over the field.
If you see him on tape, you're going to see number 35 everywhere, all over the place. And then you're going to notice the hair because the hair reminds you of Troy Polamalu. But then you'll be like, he missed that tackle, but he got credited for half a tackle. Oh, he missed that sack, but they also got 1 yard. The quarterback got 1 yard, but Maris could have got a 5-yard loss on a sack. Quarterback got 1 yard, or no gain. And and it's funny, Dwayne, when we talk about that linebacker position, and now we've seen in football, one thing about football is regardless of what goes on with the evolution of the game, you need 11 guys. It's 11 on 11. There's no player on that field that's not important. I think that because of these high-flying offenses, we tend to think the game kind of went away from a position that we're going to talk about next, that Saquon, King Henry, they kind of put back on the map, and you see where if you are committed to running, you saw what happened in Detroit. Then when they even lost Montgomery, man, Jamar Gibbs just was like, all right, I got this. And now you see this draft where you legitimately got low 5th round worth of running backs where they coming. And you got 2 guys who I would say are very, very are exceptional for what they did on the college level. And I know that we talked about Gentry a lot. And then you just like, nah, Hampton is tough too. And I think sometimes, Wayne, people don't appreciate guys when they feel like, oh, Gentry's the one. Or they just probably
Genty's the clear-cut number 1 running back. Ashton Genty, Boise State, I watched him late night. I watched a lot of his games because, it's late night and he's electric. He's the clear-cut number 1 running back, period. But I will say, depending on your team, you can't go wrong with Amarion Hampton. If you're the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson wants to run the ball, man, like he did in Detroit. If you're the Dallas Cowboys and you believe in what they're doing, where they have Adams as their offensive coordinator, who's a line guy. They brought in a line coach from Colorado State, right? You got Shoddy, who tells you all the time, I want to run the ball. I'm known for running the ball. Believe it or not, I believe Genty is the best back in the draft. This may sound crazy, but I think Hampton's the better fit in Dallas because of his size, his toughness. You can give that boy the ball 20, 25 times a game. He doesn't hurt you on pass protection. He can catch the ball out the backfield. So I hear people saying you can't take Omarion Hampton at 12. Why not? I definitely don't have a problem taking him at 12. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if Genty goes to the Raiders at 6. I think the Bears going to look long and hard at Hampton at 10. I really do. He is a pro running back, man. People talk about he don't got separation. Watch the games.
I mean, in all honesty, like, and Dwayne, I understand it. It's basically a 5-yard split. What I mean by it's in and out. can you get to that hole? If there's zone scheme, if they run cut, that one cut, could he put his foot in the dirt and go that way? My thing when they say about that is, how many times do you really, really see, not on an angle, but a straight up A to B on a straight line, do you really see guys catch players? You know what I mean? So when once a guy gets
Unless
once a
you
guy gets past
okay,
your line, once like you put a guy like Hampton. I don't want to be a linebacker who's not going full steam ahead and meet Hampton right there. You don't want Hampton, as we would say, you don't want to have to catch a running back like Hampton. Because if you catch a running back like Hampton, his cleats is going to be on your shoulder pads, and
here's
you
what I
he,
say. And again, this is not a player's comp. I'm gonna say it 2 more times. This is what I'm about to say is not a comparison to Genty or Hampton. This is not a comparison to Genty or Hampton. Hit the rewind button. When the Dallas Cowboys took a running back at 17 out of the University of Florida in the first round, and he showed up with the polka dot outfit on, Emmitt Smith. What was the knock on Emmitt Smith in college?
he's slow and he doesn't have breakaway speed.
He's slow. He's slow. He's slow. He's slow. How that look?
Yeah. We went down as the all-time leading rusher.
You don't have to see. Everybody's in love with the 40 time, right? Let's talk about Tet McMillan. Oh, he don't run a fast 40. Let's talk about Will Johnson. Oh, he's a slow corner. He's this, he's that. Watch those two players play. So here it is for me as a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm sitting at 12. I don't know what 11 teams in front of me are going to do, but I'm just saying, Dwayne Morris, if I get to 12, Tet McKinley's on the board, Will Johnson's on the board, Omarion Hampton's on the board, I'm a very happy man. I'm pulling the trigger on all three. Now, full disclosure, I want Tet. I want him to drop. I want all these people to start. I saw something today where one of the people said there were 3 wide receivers better than him. I hope he's right. I hope Tet's there at 12. But if he's not, I have no problem pulling the card on Will Johnson. And I have no problem pulling the card for Omarion Hampton.
Another player you sent me, and this was the first guy you sent me. He was like, look, I just want you to watch this. And then I watched the game where they were playing. And I was shocked that Will Campbell, he's like glue. Dwayne, what was the
His arms are too short.
and I know he didn't fan out, but what was the real good lineman that played guard and tackle that played for Alabama a few years ago? He didn't fan out.
Alex Wellerwood?
Yes. Yes. And we know things don't fan out, but when I seen Campbell, Dwayne, I'm not comparing him to him, right? But when I seen Campbell, I'm like, if he gets his hands on you, you're not going past him. Everything you sent me was like, yo. And then when I watched him live, I'm like, yo, what the hell?
You mean the guy whose arms are too short?
Yeah, yeah. It legitimately was like that.
And then when they measured him at the combines, all of a sudden, his arms wasn't short anymore.
Yeah. That was, and that's the one thing, and this is why and we always, like you said, we talk about how we like the Cowboys, and we got to understand, and I'm not comparing none of these guys to a guy that has came in the league on fire. Micah Parsons did not have a combine or a senior year. He sat out.
Yeah, COVID.
And he came to the league and got drafted by a team, and the situation happened, and boom. And now we see how basically he's become the standard of wearing, and it's crazy because guys from Penn State always wore number 11, but now he's become the standard. When guys wore 11, everybody says, oh, he has Micah Parsons' freakish ability.
I'm not doing that. Because the 11 for Penn State will and always be LeVar Arrington.
Yeah. And now you see his son.
His son going to wear it is an amazing thing. But you talk about Micah Parsons, right? Oh, the Cowboys are crazy. They made a trade and they took an off-ball linebacker. That's all he. Micah Parsons, he's an off-ball linebacker. But when you watched him play in college, he was all over the place. Sure, he would be able to rush the passer. But now, due to injury, they put him at edge, and he performed the way he is. So you put that linebacker genie, you can't put it back in the bottle. It's out. He's not a linebacker now. He's an edge. Like,
And that's one of the things, Dwayne, I don't understand about guys who do this when they call themselves having a draft board, is you don't chase your draft board. You allow your board to be where it is. If you have Micah, or if you have one of these players as your 6th rated player and he's available and you come up, you pick him. You stay true to your board. You don't say, well, he's an off-ball linebacker. We got 2 guys, or we got a guy. No, you still should get him. Like, for example, me and you've talked about it. And I know that the chances of this guy slipping to 12 is almost slim to none. But if Graham slips, as much as me and you've talked about Ted McKinley and Hampton, and I know that's a quote unquote a position of need for the Cowboys. But what I seen out of Graham is that, he is potentially a game wrecker. And it's like,
he will never see 12.
See what I mean? Like we and we believe he'll never see 12. We seen where some teams, and we know that the Cowboys, according to what they were trying to do a few years ago, was Trayvon Diggs is definitely going to be our 1st-round pick. Now, had Trayvon Diggs been a 1st-round pick, he would have been the reach from what people think. We see our players slipping. Cowboys were not really particularly going to go get a receiver. We saw a guy slip to the Cowboys, and he's arguably one of the top 3 receivers in the league now with CeeDee Lamb. So I think that when you look at draft, you have to stay true to your board, stay where the numbers are. Sometimes you could trade back and still get your guy. That infamous draft with Michael Parsons, a lot of people don't really understand. Something happened in that draft that don't usually happen. The Eagles traded with the Cowboys. It was the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants. 3 division rivals, back to back to back with the picks. The Eagles jumped Dallas because they thought the Giants were going to go get the.
They wanted to get ahead of the Giants because they were worried that the Giants would get Devontae Smith.
Yeah, they wanted to get Devontae Smith. And quote unquote, the Eagles didn't get Parsons. No, the Eagles got their guy. Mm-hmm. The Cowboys got a pick in him. The pick turned out to be who, Dwayne? Chauncey, right?
Chauncey Golston. Yeah.
Chauncey Golston.
Who's now a Giant.
Who's now a Giant. The Giants traded out to Chicago, and they wound up getting another pick. So a lot of things happen in the draft that we will always say, play the Monday morning quarterback. It didn't fan out. This worked. These teams. No. Everything is about chance, circumstance, whatever. But it's really interesting. Other 2 running backs I want to talk about, Wayne, is I'm going to call them the double trouble guys, man. And the 2 boys that play for the University of Ohio. And I'm going to say that out of respect for you because we know you're a diehard Michigan fan. It's a team that plays in Columbus. And one thing I will give you as a Michigan fan, and I'm going to say it, you will always give respect for guys that come out of Ohio State. You don't use them being a rival as you not being able to critique these players. What do you think? I know you I looked at both of them, both of the running back, Junkins and Henderson, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Dwayne. It is as the brother content creator Vouch Lombardi. Shout out to Vouch for his crazy commentary. He's really good. I think when you draft either one of them guys, I'll use Vouch's favorite phrase: "You can have whatever you like."
I'm more of a Henderson guy than a Junkins guy. I think Henderson is the clear number 3 back, and I could push for him to be the number 2 with Hampton. The only thing you could say about Henderson is injury. He get nicked up, but he's the back that you never have to take off the field. His pass protection is best in this draft. out of running backs, in my opinion. Again, it's all about opinion. He could play cold weather. He could play, you name it, he could play. He's from Virginia, so he's from the Commonwealth, man. I like players from the Commonwealth. Judkins is good, man. He was good at Ole Miss. He's good at Ohio State. And not to get too far off the subject, but that's what I think these evaluators and these content creators and these draft people, like, they're wishy-washy sometimes with their narrative. So you'll look, I'm not even going to try to say his last name and embarrass myself because I'm a big proponent on getting people's names right. I think it's important. So you'll talk about the edge rusher from Ole Miss. First name is Prince, right? People want to knock what he did at Ole Miss, like, oh, he was a rotational player, but they don't want to talk about his first stop and how he was maybe the best player on the defense at his first stop, right? So you look at Matthew Golden, who everybody's in love with, right? 1 year at Texas, had a good year last year, 900 plus receiving yards. He's fast. Everyone wants to skyrocket him up this draft board. But don't nobody want to talk about his 2 years at Houston. Why? Why we ain't? That's part of the evaluation. Got Will Johnson of Michigan, who started since the day he stepped on that campus in Ann Arbor. 2 All-American seasons. Gets hurt last year. Hurt his foot. Now all of a sudden, he's slow. Nobody wants a slow cornerback. Off one year? Like, come on, man. Like, you could make anybody look bad, man. You could make anybody look bad. Hell, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, made the college football trophy look bad today at the White House when he dropped it. Couldn't have happened to a better team in the Buckeyes. The man broke their trophy. I just say that, man. Like, I'm a Michigan fan, but guess what? As a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'm taking Ohio State wide receivers every day and twice on Sundays. So if 12 don't work out for the Cowboys and they drop back to, say, the 18, 19, 20 range, go get me a Buka.
And it's funny you said that because I think it's every year for the last 3 years. I always say to you, what's their receiver coach again? And you'd be like, Hartline. And I'm like, hey, he's still there. And it's so crazy because we always see these coaches get elevated because of the system. I don't know what Hartline is doing to those receivers. We always hear this thing in the NFL, and I'm not comparing the NFL to the college, but we always hear quarterback whisperer. But man, if anybody, whatever he's doing, the secret sauce when it comes to receivers, Hartline is doing something. I mean, everybody's not going there that just got a pedigree like Mark.
He's a co-offense coordinator this year. Yeah. He got a receiver right now that's going to be a sophomore that if he was eligible to be in the draft, he'd be the first receiver taken.
Wow.
Without question, Smith would be. And guess what? The cupboard doesn't get bare because Chris Henry Jr. going to be on that campus, and we know how good his father was. Unfortunately, his father life ended a lot shorter than we would have liked for it.
Shout out to Pac-Man Jones, man. Stepped up as a brother.
Stepped up and did what he had to do. And so, like I said, I put a 50 together. This 50 list I put together was from way back in February. I didn't touch it. I left it as it is. Everybody has Mach 6.0, Mach 7.0. I'm just going with my thoughts, right? Because I put a list together in February, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did any of these players play another game?
No. But I'm gonna go right to your list, man.
But did they any of them ever play another game?
They never played another game.
That you moving people up and down based off their film, so that tells me you shouldn't have put your first list together.
Yeah, or
February should be your list.
And what was guys' first list about? Because nothing should have changed your list. Because now you're telling me that the combine trains your list, and basically majority of the stuff that's in the combine doesn't matter because it don't fan out to game day. I know
Listen,
one guy you were really disappointed that people are talking about slipping in the draft is this Luther Burton out of Mizzou. Like what's going on, Dwayne?
I have no idea. I don't know what happened from the end of the season since his last game to now. Like I don't get it. Like we just basing everything on when they got the shirts off and when they run a 40s and when they run a vertical, doing the vertical thing. What has changed with Luther Burton on the football field since his last football game? Like, this is what these people got to tell me.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. I always call
We
this
put the
this
list
time
up
of the
there.
year.
Like, we put the list up there.
I
You already
call this
know the
I
list from
call this I call this intentional lying season because I know these guys be lying about this stuff. I mean, I think they do this stuff on purpose. And somebody else and you showed me, and this was the first guy, and I apologize for saying that Campbell was the first guy, but the first guy that you sent me, he's just so solid, man. And it is my guy Kenneth Grant out of Michigan.
Yeah,
What's your thoughts on him, man?
he can go to NFL, man, and you can mold him, right? He's big, he's athletic, um, he's durable. I think Michigan, if you look at it last year, I think they had the two best defensive tackles in college football with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant.
Hmm.
This kid chases people downfield. He can get upfield. He can get after the quarterback. He can plug the run. I like Kenneth Grant a lot, man. Like I see some where they saying he may not even go in the first round. Again, I just don't know. I don't know. But if you look at it, I got a guy at 6 that I love who's falling down draft boards for some
Wow.
reason, you know.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's the intentional lying to throw people off the scent, or
I, I just don't know what it is. But if you look, some of my stuff, it's familiar names. Like I'm big on Benjamin Morrison. A lot of people don't like him. Um, you know, I, I'm big on the Minnesota lineman. I didn't have the Mizzou lineman on my people saying something more on him than I saw, whatever, you know.
I know
Uh,
how you felt about Siobhan Rivell if he's healthy.
yeah, if he's healthy, I love him, man.
He's right behind Will Johnson.
For me, he's behind Will Johnson, and again, it's just Dwayne Morris. Like, I'm no draft expert, okay? Um, Benjamin Morrison, I love out of Notre Dame. I just love him, you know. Um,
One of the players that was talked about, Dwayne, and in the Cowboy circles, I'll mention it, and people were kept saying his name, and we find out that he had a bad patella, and you were like, why would you kept saying, I hope the Cowboys is not going to pick this kid, and you were not trying to come off as picking on a guy from Ohio State was, and I haven't heard his name in the last couple of weeks was Josh Simmons.
yeah, well, some of the Cowboy creators, content creators, you know, Vach. Vach wants a lineman. You know, Brian Brodus is really sold on Simmons. And I usually mess with Brian Brodus, but there's a couple of evaluations he's doing. Like he had, I heard him say something the other day, and I was like, all right, this guy was in the NFL. So he's been in war rooms. He's been a scout. He's forgotten more about this stuff than I know. I get it. But it's like sometimes you just want to put a bad rep on a player, man. Like, and it's like, for what reason, man? Like, people are overthinking Tet so much. They're overthinking him, man. Like,
I think the one thing, Dwayne, is that, and this comes to, and I'm not saying Brian did this, and we me and you, man, we appreciate what Brian does. We don't agree with everything he does, but we definitely appreciate him, um, and we like what he does a lot. I think the one thing that people don't understand is that when me and you say Tet, And the reason why we say Tet is because when you look at the roster makeup of the Cowboys' offensive skill positions, if you just pencil Tet in there with CD, with Fergie, with the other receivers, oh, now you're cooking with grease. I think a lot of times when you evaluate players and then you try to pick them for a team, a particular team, a lot of people just take the player and have it be a standalone situation instead of saying, if you put that player with that team, why it's a fit. Like for example, Cam Ward played for University of Miami. I like Cam Ward a lot. I think Cam Ward, what he did, he revived the college team that I root for. I mean, he would probably be our biggest transfer in the history of our college because he put our eyes back on the team. But I want to say that as good as I think Cam Ward is, I think I personally think Miami was loaded for Cam Ward at the skill position players. I think they had receivers. I think they had backs. I think they had a lot of offensive talent. So much so that their defense to me was not that good because all the resources went to the offense. So I think a lot of times when you do these player evaluations and you look at these players, Cam Ward, you pencil Cam Ward in Tennessee. Let's just say we know Tennessee is probably going to draft him. With what's around him, he should be okay. And I say that to say when we were talking about Tet, like with what's around Tet, if he gets drafted by the Cowboys, he should be a perfect fit for the Cowboys.
Well, here's the thing, man. It goes back to what I said about Genty, Austin Genty, and what I said about Omarion Hampton, right? I could see people saying Genty is better than Omarion Hampton, right? But I think Hampton's the better fit for the team I root for. So if you look at my 50, you see the first receiver that I had on my list was Luther Burton. And I still believe Luther Burton, to me, it may be the number one wide receiver if I was evaluating it, right? But we got CD Lamb, who's a certain body type, you know. Reason I think, even though I got him at 10 and I had Burton at 7, I think Tet is a better option for the Cowboys. He's 6'5", man. He's something that they don't have on their roster. Like they got Mingo. Mingo ain't 6'5" though, you know. So I already got that 6 foot, 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot.
That big receiver who can win one-on-one on the outside and be what we see, and which has been the bugaboo for the Cowboys, have always been their red zone offense. It bogs down.
Come down the list a little bit because we can only see the 24. There'll be some more familiar names for people there. Like I like Shamar Stewart, right? I like him on the field. I like him a lot on the field. It's just these are kids that have to grow, right? They have to grow. They have to become men in this league, right? Some of the things that concern me is some of his actions on the field, like some of the after the play is over type stuff. He's a baller, you know. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Bond. You know, I don't know what happened with him and the young lady. He will have his day to prove his innocence. I think that's going to hurt him, though. I think he may go undrafted because this is all not going to be resolved by next week. But me personally, I like Isaiah Bond better than I love Matthew Golden.
What's funny is that you had earmarked him to me. You told me about the history of him, and rooting for the kid, man. And I do, and I hate to say what I'm about to say, but I get upset with a lot of the Cowboy guys always having this connection to Texas players because that's biggest university in the state. Even though we have a Marion Overshawn who's fanning out really well, who you told me 3 years ago, watch out for him.
Go back and
Um,
watch our show.
I hope Isaiah Bond. Hope that situation just works out. I've told you I'm not, and I'll say it to right now. I'm not enthused on this Matthew Golden thing. It's because and I know it speed. I know it's speed. CD Lamb, quote unquote, don't got speed, but CD Lamb, what he does is that yards after catch is so important for CD Lamb's game. Very important for his game. And it goes back to they're the same size. When you go get that big receiver, like you're saying, when you go, you want a receiver. The Cowboys haven't had a true, really good X since Des Bryant. I mean, they've had guys that basically all fit the same mold, and every year in the Cowboys, you get these certain games where they'll roll that double team over for CD Lamb, and nobody has shown that they want to take that second and third receiver position and really step over and really step up.
Another player I really, really like, and I have him 43 on this list, is Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Big fan of his. And listen, man, again, if you look at my list, there's one name you notice in the wide receivers that's not on my list, man. But I want to pay attention to who I got at 50. Okay. Everybody can say how slow he is. Okay.
As a University of Miami fan, I watched this kid, and the kid broke. If you look at the history of receivers at the University of Miami, the kid left as the all-time leading receiver. And I'm gonna say this about him, and he ran a 4.8 at the 40. We have to understand the difference between 40 speed and quickness. Quickness means do you have that twitch? And what I mean by that is when you're looking at receivers, and it was a receiver that we had years ago, and he's probably gonna retire this year. That he had a twitch that I've never seen before when it comes to how fast he was in the hip area. And it's Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not comparing the kid to Odell Beckham Jr., but I'm saying that sometimes you see these athletes and you can see how quick they can go from right to left. And it's amazing. And I'm going to say this about Restero. If he gets picked by the right team who understands a third receiver and understands that slot, he will be a Wes Welker, Edelman type of receiver.
I love to see him in Baltimore.
Yes, where he will be a guy where every time the quarterback is in trouble and he needs that first down, you're going to see him catch a pass. He's going to be, if he gets picked by the right team, he's going to be a nightmare for defenses for them underneath routes and being matched up by a linebacker in them zones. Because I don't care about the speed on the 40. The 40 means nothing to me when it comes to what you have on film. And he catches everything. So you just had him as number 50. That's not a rating 1 through 50, but
I just put 50 players. And then I know people are going to be like, "Oh, he did." He's talking about Henderson, but he has Caleb Johnson over him.
Yeah.
Splitting the hairs.
It's amazing how many people, because they said that he was going to probably be a second round pick, now people are saying he's a fifth. I'm going to just say it again. He is going to I'm going to give you a team that if he goes to, and I know they probably got their top 3 receivers, but if he goes to the Rams, Sean McVay will love him because he will be a nightmare in that type of offense. But, yeah, Wayne, man, I'm really looking forward to the draft, man. And
the draft's coming up, and we do our draft show every year. We do it. I know there's a lot of draft shows out there, man. We do it because we love it. If people get a little something out of us and what we're saying, it's appreciated.
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I kind of wish this. I love what we do, but I cannot take these long first round. The first round draft last year was like 4 hours and 45 minutes. Like, man, it was a long round. I wish the first round speeds up. I know that Friday last year, he wasn't with us.
Yeah.
But the second and third round, I'm really looking intriguing. I'm really looking for the wheeling and dealing to go on.
Listen, when you get past the first 2 rounds, right? Third, fourth, fifth round is where you make your team, man. Like, just look at it historically. Like, championship teams is built off those third, fourth, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, even seventh round. Like, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, man.
Yeah.
He about to sign a big deal. He was Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft. So all these picks matter, man. All of them do. Fred Warren, he wasn't a first, second rounder. He's third round. And he one of the best linebackers in the NFL, if you ask me. So everybody has an opinion. Nobody's right or wrong. I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Foots, the king, man. Like, I really think he crushes draft. I lock into him a lot. Will Still. I like those guys. They're doing their draft show. Of course, everybody that's a Cowboy fan, like Brodus and Vach. Vach, hey, man, we seen Vach grow, man, from the YouTuber to now. He's on the Cowboy draft show. And, I'm a big fan of Double I, Aisha Morrison. So there's a lot of good people out there. And man, when it comes to just covering the whole sport, I know everybody loves Scheffler. I'm a big move the sticks guy, man. I like Daniel Jeremiah a lot. I think Bucky Brooks deserves flowers that he don't get enough of. Of course, Mel Kiper's the godfather of all this, man. McShay.
I'm gonna say, Dwayne, you surprised me a couple of weeks ago, and we're very harsh critics of ESPN, and not that ESPN did anything wrong to us personally, but we're harsh critics because ESPN calls itself the standard. But ESPN, man, usually you lose talent, but y'all pulled off one of the major acquisitions, man. We're getting Peter Schrager, man. We big supporters of Peter Schrager, what he does. Peter Schrager to me is a premier guy. Like, he is a get. Tune into him, man.
Listen, Peter Schrager reminds me of. Listen, I got into this medium of really wanting to discuss sports publicly. Cut my teeth on Mike and the Mad Dog, a WFAN in New York. Peter Schrager reminds me a lot of Mike Francesa. A lot. Just the way he carries himself, the way he gives the information out. And he's really, really good, man. There's a lot of good people out there, man. Hey, it's draft season, man. We are next week, man.
Yeah, you guys in the chat. Dwayne gave you guys a glimpse, man. I'll never forget days. We listened to Mike and Chris, man, and they used to have a promo. It used to be called Mike and the Angry Puppy. I mean, if you remember Mike and the Mad Dog from them days, them 90 days. Dwayne always brings up the days when they talk about the slow sport days. I'll never forget the time when Pat Riley sent the fax in. If you remember the days, and I'm gonna tell you where Mike and the Mad Dog
wrote his thing on a napkin.
Yeah, Mike and the Mad Dog.
HC and the NYJ.
Yes, and Mike and the Mad Dog, I'll never forget, and I'm gonna say this, man. Where they really showed their worth to the New York metropolitan sports media, where they went in, is during the time of 1994. 1994, you guys, the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers both went to the finals in the Stanley Cup. Every day it was a playoff game.
Every night.
And them Mike and Chris, when I mean they were showing their worth. If you go back in the archives of real sports talk radio, them guys was knocking grand slams out the park every day on point, and it was a great time for anybody that grew up in the New York metropolitan area. Sports, and George Steinbrenner gave them some advice about their show, and he said to simulcast their show, and they became the first guys to simulcast their show. We know the history of Mike and Mike Goldberg and Mike Golick, and and so forth. So we always, Dwayne and myself, we always give homage to those guys who really have paved the way. And now you see Chris Russo, Mike, which is the Mad Dog, doing well with his Sirius channel, and he's as a contributor on ESPN for First Take and so forth. So
The
with
last
that,
thing I would say, man, is rest in peace to the late great Dr. Z, Paul Zimmerman. He's the man that made me want to do draft stuff, man. And I had a Sports Illustrated. Like my mother and father, they fed my passion for sports. So, while everybody was playing with Matchbox cars and doing all that thing, man, I was reading Sports Illustrated. I had a subscription from God knows when my father got it for me, and into my adulthood until journalism changed and it become all about clickbait and who got the hottest takes and who could say the wildest things, man. The best, the best, the best to ever do this draft thing was Dr. Z, Paul Zimmerman. I salute him, support him always. He's the greatest. Rest in peace once again, Dr. Z.
with that, take care, and we'll see you guys draft night.